Hello, hello. Can you see my face? Good morning. Good morning. If you're here, give me a wave. Give me a hi. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Good morning. I'm going to stop the music here. Today, we are going to be talking about overwhelm, how to combat the overwhelm, and how to live in high frequency, high volume of doing, and still being in joy, still being in abundance, still being in not burnout, but creating mode. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, Crystal. Welcome, welcome. So we're going to be walking through this, and I would just like to start by asking you guys, have you been experiencing any overwhelm in your life? Have you been experiencing any burnout? Have you been experiencing, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. How do I get it all organized? First of all, in my heart and mind, because I believe that we are all very physical beings. The way that we process things in our mind and in our hearts is very important. But also, how do we technically, applicably organize things? And I'm going to be talking about both those things. So I'd love to know, is that something that you ever experience or that you have experienced? We're going to be talking about that. So what are the feelings that come with this overwhelm type of thing? What are the feelings that come with it? Stress, feeling not capable, feeling like you're not enough. Like, what are the feelings that come with this overwhelm type of feeling? Go ahead and comment in the chat and I'll be looking. I see you, Sharon. Um, and Crystal, and is it Lorna who's on? Give me a shout out, say hi. But what are the feelings that come with it? Like, let's put words to how it feels. Abandoned. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is a big one. Anyone else? Anyone else have words to this? And I'd love to know more, Sharon. Abandoned, and it's interesting because I don't know if you notice, but we are all pattern uh, imitators. If we've had a pattern in our life, we usually replay out that pattern. Anyone else notice that we are humans of habit and creatures of habit? Anyone else notice that? So if these feelings of abandoned are coming up in your burnout, let's ask some questions about it. When was the first moment that you felt abandoned? And you don't have to share this in the chat, but just write it down for your own sake. Write it down. When was the first moment that you felt abandoned, or whatever other feelings are coming up in that overwhelm? When was the first time that happened? Go ahead and write it down. Not in the chat. You can write it down on your own. Get a paper and pen and write it down for yourself. When was that first time you felt abandoned? And really, again, just going back to this thing of we are creatures of habit. If we have felt it in the past, we'll most likely replay it in the future when we encounter stress. So go ahead and write it down. And now I want you to feel like abandoning the work. Oh, okay, got it. So you feel abandoned, and then you feel like you need to abandon the work in order to not feel abandoned. Is that correct? Maybe you can clarify for me a little bit. Feel like abandoning the work. So in other words, you're running away from the responsibility, or you're running away from feeling whatever you're encountering in the stress, right? So if you're feeling abandoned and then you abandon the work. So it's curious. I'm curious too. Like, no, okay. Maybe you can clarify for me, Sharon. But I mean, why don't you clarify before I start talking about it? Feel like walking away from it. Got it. So but how do you feel when you're walking away from the work? You feel abandoned, or you feel stressed? You feel like you're not able to do all the things that you've set your mind to do, like you're not capable? What is the feeling that comes with it? Can you when you're walking away from the work and being like, okay, bye work, fried. Yeah, fried fried is a I don't know if fried is a feeling. It might be an experience, but like what's the feeling? Like this is an interesting exercise. Like what's the actual feeling about yourself that maybe we can phrase it this way. What's the actual uh like emotion about yourself that you feel when mentally drained? Okay. So mentally drained. So basically you're putting this on yourself that you are mentally drained. And I think there's some deeper work here to do. But when I did this exercise, uh, there's a lot of identity that comes on. Hello, good morning. I stopped caring. Aha, there you go. There you go. La La Chunik, welcome, welcome. I stopped caring. Okay, so there's like a passivity that comes. Like I'm just disconnected, right? I'm just gonna disconnect. And what I've seen for this overwhelmed kind of feeling, we usually do one of two things. And Sharon, you're kind of hitting it on the head here. You either go passive and then walk away, uh and there's something that you're believing about yourself that is leading you to that result. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Like what is the feeling about yourself that you go to? Like I'm not capable, I'm not worthy. And there's always two conversations here, and this is from a coach that I had from kind of leadership training that I've done. We're all in leadership, right? We're either leading ourselves or we're leading others. And if we take an action, there's usually an identity thing that we have tied to that action. So if we have stopped caring or we are disconnected, it's either I'm not capable, uh, I'm not supported, I don't have people around me, I feel abandoned. Like these are very typical things that come with the overwhelm. So I want you to write it down. What are the actual emotions that come with the action of walking away about yourself? Like what are the identities that the labels that you take on about yourself in this overwhelm? Go ahead and write that down, and then I'm going to get into a practical application of this because uh, overwhelm, there's there's an identity portion to it, and then uh, there's a self-worth portion to it, and then there's an intimacy portion to this. And when I first heard this, I was like, intimacy, what do you mean by intimacy? Intimacy, it either could be intimacy, lack of intimacy in the details, lack of intimacy with yourself and what you're worth and your value and all these things, or it could be lack of intimacy with your team, the people that are supporting you. So usually overwhelm comes with us trying to create something and facing these three different places of lack of intimacy. So what's resonating for you? Is it lack of intimacy with the details of organizing your time? Is it lack of intimacy with relationship with yourself? Or is it lack of intimacy in relationship with your team, who you have around you supporting you? It's always some kind of lack of intimacy. And for me, I'm not a detail oriented person. So what I try to do is I go into systems for myself to support myself. I also do exploring a little bit of self worth, saying, okay, where am I not feeling capable, and why am I not feeling capable of creating this result that I said that I would create? Is it lack of intimacy with myself and my worth, or is it lack of intimacy in the relationships around me? Am I not asking for help? And this is very typical with moms. This is very typical with women that I see. We have this lack of asking for support. And we've never even experienced this kind of support that we truly in our hearts are crying out for. We're crying out for support and love. And at the end of the day, we're humans. We all want that. But we've never actually been intimate enough with ourselves, with our schedules, and with the people around us to actually ask for it. And so that's what I want to dive into today. What's coming up for you? And I stopped looking at the chat here. So Brashka, welcome. So what is the lack of intimacy for you? Is it lack of intimacy with the details of your time, your money commitments? Is it like practical? Is it lack of intimacy with yourself and your self-worth, your identity, what you label yourselves as, capable, all those things? Or is it lack of intimacy with asking for support around you, having that kind of generosity support that I believe that we as humans were created. It's community, um, and it goes two ways, by the way, right? Asking for support for the people around us, and then we give support as well. But if we're not able to give support, there's a block, right? If we're like so overwhelmed that we can barely take care of ourselves, there is a block in generosity. And because we are here to talk about crowdfunding, I want to unblock you from all ways of receiving and giving. And overwhelm is one of those things that will block you. It will block you in relationship with people, it'll block you in relationship with yourself, and it'll block you in relationship with the details. So let's dive into details now that we've done a little bit more self-reflection, a little bit more self-worth work. And I'd love, if you're watching the replay, definitely keep posting like what's stopping you, what is the lack of intimacy that you feel in your life as far as details, self, or time. Now we're going to dive into time and time management, and overwhelm in that area, because it sounds funny to put intimacy to that, but there is an intimacy to our time that we can be so disconnected from. So Sharon, you're saying you want to walk away. There may be, and only you can do this work for yourself, as I have done for me, but there may be a lack of connection to the details of your life, to the time in your life. And this can stem from a lot of things. Again, the other areas of life, relationships with ourselves and others, there's always a tie to that. But there is a coach that I have, and she is a multimillionaire. Her name's Shanda Sumter, and she's very heart-centered. She runs a company called Heartcore, and the reason it's called Heartcore, it's because everything she does in her business is centered from the heart. And so if there were anyone who knows what she's talking about, it's definitely her when it comes to running a organization, running a team, and then running a relationship. She's got a young son, she's got a husband, so she runs many things in her life. And she taught me the power of 3. So 3 goals in a week, 3 things in a day. She says, and she got this from different people too, but you can only really accomplish 3 things excellently in a day. Now, that might be like, in a busy season, you're like, yeah, right, I'm doing like 10 in a day. But there's a power of 3, and I want to break it down for you, and how I break it down for myself in very busy seasons, very full, abundant seasons. Instead of busy, you could say, wow, I have so much abundance around me. I have so much to create. This is a good problem to have. But if we're stopping ourselves with overwhelm, there's a leadership block. And this leadership comes down to getting intimate with those 3 categories that I just talked about. So number 1, I'm going to give you an example of my calendar. This is my calendar book. This is one of my weeks that I had my summit. And by the way, I did put personal things on as my 3 things for the day. But I also had 3 business goals on this side. And you guys it's backwards so you can kind of see, but I'm going to read these things to you. And this is when I was building my summit out. So it's a little bit of a different example. But there were 3 goals in a week, like literally just 3. I just had 3 goals, guys. Just 3. Okay? I just had 3 goals. Okay? But I put sub goals underneath those 3 goals. So number 1 goal was add 5 speakers to my summit. Number 2 goal was promote the summit. And number 3 goal was onboard 1 client into my business. You guys can do whatever goals that you want, but I have sub goals underneath these 3 goals now. So add 5 speakers to my summit. Notice I put a number. I didn't say add speakers to my summit. I said, no, add 5 speakers to my summit. I put a number. Quantify your goal. Okay? Put a number. And then underneath my sub points there, I put bring up at meeting on Monday. I think I was having a meeting with a friend who was connected in the industry, and I was asking her for speakers. So I was like, bring up meeting on Monday. Then I said, reach out to Dennis, Andy, Paul, Jordan, Jody, Tara, Devin, Greg, and Connor. So that was like, what about 10 sub points under my first goal? So these are sub points. Then number 2 goal was promo for the summit, and I quantified underneath. So I put 3 emails to my list, 3 posts on Instagram, follow up with speakers, get speakers together for the week of the summit, get an ad going, meet with Clara and Anne, and then get tech tested. So these are all sub points for one goal. I'm literally just doing 3 things a week, but I'm putting sub goals underneath. And then the last one was onboard 1 client. So I was going to follow up with new clients, get quotes from lessons.com, follow up with people I texted about it, and then go over my email list. So all these things to do. I got everything done that week, guys. And the reason is because I only put 3 things a day from those sub points on there. Literally number 1 was finished at the end of the week, because I kept meeting with different people throughout the week. People would get back to me, 2 days later, all sorts of things like that. So I check marked every time I got done with a goal here. So I'm like, okay, I already talked to Andy, already talked to Jordan, already talked to Jody, Tara's out, Greg is out. So as I went throughout the week, I would cross these things out. And I only did three things a day, 3 sub points a day. Now, as you guys can see, I also took care of myself during this crazy, crazy time. I put workout here. I've got gym, email posts. What did I put? I tried mouth tape. Have you guys seen that? Have you guys seen mouth tape? It's supposed to help you sleep better. I don't know. I was testing it out that week. I taped my mouth shut while I slept. It was funny. And then I fed my sourdough because I was trying to make sourdough. So literally these 3 things could be personal and business as well. But usually what I had was one big personal thing, like workout was always a big one that I struggle with. And then I had 2 sub points for business. So if you think about 3 and 3, the power of 3, you will create more in your week than you thought was possible. And this is something I do during very busy times. I don't always do this. I would like to do it every week, but I don't always do this. I do this during very abundant seasons. And it saves my life. It's like the power of 3. I really just need to get 3 things done today. What are those 3 things? If you can have a sub meeting with yourself at the beginning of the week and plan it out, or you can do it even just once a day, the night before or the morning of, just be like, okay, let me breathe. What are 3 things that I get to accomplish and create today? And create, I love the word create. I love replacing accomplish with create, because I'm a creative and I know most people in my audience are creatives. I know you resonate with that. So what are 3 things that I get to, instead of I have to, try replacing the words I get to create this today? Oh my gosh. And then you have this abundance mentality, a generosity mindset, a thankfulness automatically. And, absolutely pray and do different things to create this generosity, this thankfulness spirit, because I think at the end of the day, we were created to be thankful, but overwhelm is very much a stealer of that joy. There's so much joy that comes from generosity, thankfulness. But when we're overwhelmed, we can barely give to others, let alone ourselves. So start being smart and creating something different when you encounter overwhelm as a block. And this is a practical thing. I've given you guys some practical things to do. I've given you guys some questions to ask when it comes to intimacy with those 3 categories. I'll review them real quick. They're intimacy with your time and money and the details that come with that. Intimacy with yourself and your self-worth, your identity, and it's intimacy with the people around you, asking for support, communicating your needs to people. At the end of the day, it's on us to communicate what we need, and who we'd like to even give back to, right? Like sometimes it's just like, I got nothing to give. I got 10%. I need to communicate that to you right now. And also Next week, my goal is to have 20%, and I'm working on it, right? So this this generosity mindset. Let me know if that was helpful for you guys. This is something that my clients have been facing, and I face as well in busy seasons. So I'd love to know, what is your takeaway from today? Go ahead and write it in the chat. What is your takeaway from today? What made sense? What resonated? What was your biggest takeaway? And what's the action point you're going to create today, from what we just talked about? What are you going to take away today and take action on? Because knowledge is not power, it's action on the knowledge that creates the movement in our life, that replaces old habits of overwhelm, that replaces old habits of being in take or different things like that, and stepping into generosity. I listened to this Instagram post the other day, and it was about being at high frequency and joy versus hustle culture. And this hustle culture, we all know what hustle culture, right? It's like work, 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 work till you're late in the night, until you don't sleep. And, like you're hustling, you're such a hustler. Like it's almost like a badge of honor. And if it leads to overwhelm, guys, it's not worth it. I'm not saying we'll always be balanced and perfect, because we're human, but there are smarter ways to go about getting our goals, and that is something about it's living at high frequency, which includes intimacy of all those three categories. By the way, it's living at high frequency in joy and in thankfulness. And so, if that resonated with you, put me in the chat, guys. Got a lot going on this week. If let me look at the chat first before I make our announcements here. What resonated with you in the chat? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Give me some feedback here and then I'll make my announcements for the week, and then I got to go in about 5 minutes. So go ahead and put what resonated with you in the chat. Where do you get to dive into intimacy? Is it intimacy with your time and your finances, the kind of details of your life? Is it intimacy with your own self-worth and your own connection with yourself? Is it intimacy with your relationships and creating great relationships in that category? Let me know where you're going to focus in intimacy this week, and I would love to hear what your results are as you apply something from today. So what are you going to apply? Go ahead and put it in the chat, so I can see, and go ahead and put that in the chat, and I'll get back to you guys and definitely check in on you guys. So as far as announcements, guys, we have a few things going on this week. We have one, Fiona Flight has created a real magic product for you guys. It's just for my community. She is giving us basically 200 prompts for reels and social media posts that are pre-done. They are not, you don't have to create them yourself. They're pre-done. They're specifically for artists, musicians, and coaches, music coaches, and they're pre-done. My friend Gary Albert Music, you can check out his Instagram. He works with Fiona and he uses all her reels. I just got Real Magic myself, and I'm going to be making reels from there as well. I know Karen jumped on board last week, and these are, if you are dealing with overwhelm with creating posts and different things like that, and you want someone to just do it for you, it's a great product. It's $37 for 200 reels that are pre-done for you. Fiona's only offering that. It's a $200+ product, guys, but Fiona's offering that to my community this week only. So definitely put magic in the chat if that's something that you would like in your life to help you with overwhelm and not be so overwhelmed with social media posts. The second thing is Monique Thomas, who is a speaker on my last summit, just featured me on a podcast about crowdfunding. So definitely check out her podcast. I listened to it yesterday, guys. It's so good. Like, Monique is such a great interviewer. I felt so at ease and inspired, and I was like dropping inspiration left and right in this podcast. And it's definitely something that I think I've been getting a lot of feedback on. People have told me, oh my gosh, I didn't know like how easy crowdfunding could be, how I don't have to be overwhelmed about it, how I could just work with you on it. So been getting a lot of great feedback. So go ahead, definitely check out Monique's podcast, Monique on the Mic, and it's on Apple and Spotify. And I'm featured on it talking about crowdfunding and my journey and my fears that came up with crowdfunding, guys. Because this process, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it will make you face your fears and especially overwhelmed because there's a lot of different components to it. So the more that you can lean into the intimacy of those three categories that we talked about, the more you can create. And then last thing, intimacy. Sharon, I'm just seeing this intimacy with emotion and introspection. Got mine. Okay, cool, Sharon. Awesome. Glad you got yours. The last thing is, it is the last week to sign up for Launchpad's challenge with Rocket Fuel. So if you're someone who wants to crowdfund but don't have necessarily funds up front, we are upfronting all the coaching costs for artists to work with us, Andy Baker and I from Rocket Fuel, and without any funds down, as long as you launch within 30 days. So you don't have to make any payments up front as long as you launch within 30 days. And this is only if you, we don't have any plan for the rest of the year. So this is a very special time. So if you'd like some info on that, put Rocket in the chat and I will definitely get you the waiting list. The waiting list cuts off, not tomorrow, Friday. On the March 15th. That's the last day we're accepting people on the waiting list, and then the application process starts. You do have to apply and qualify for the program, but I love this because artists don't have to pay anything up front. If you work with me, it's a paid coaching program, but this is a way that artists can create and pay on the back end. So if you want some info on that, put Rocket. Guys, thank you so much for jumping on with me today. Sharon, thank you for all your feedback and creating with me this morning. What are you going to create today? I'd love to know. Text me. I got your number. And I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, guys.